Hello! Today I wanted to make a video about Canadian artists who I think are worth taking a look at. I feel like as Canadians, we live next to such a big country with one of the biggest media industries in the world, and so inevitably we end up spending a lot of time taking in media that isn't from our country, which there's nothing wrong with. I know for myself, I read a lot of books from other places and I listen to a lot of music from other places, but it's kind of like only ever talking about your neighbors and what they do. And like there's something special about watching a movie and being like, "Oh, I know that kind of person. I know the story that they're telling." Um so today I have a couple singers and one painter who I think are worth taking a listen to or a look at if you're interested. And if you're Canadian, please share who you feel really well represents where you're from. And if you're not, share somebody that represents where you live. I'm sure people would be interested to know. So I'll start with Sarah Harmer. She is a singer songwriter. She has a very acoustic guitar kind of vibe. I actually did a project on her in high school. um, so yeah, her first two albums, All of Our Names and You Were Here, I think pretty much every track on there is really good. Basement Apartment is probably one of her biggest hits, and I think Lodestar is a really, really interesting song. It starts really quiet and then it like erupts. And I don't know that she like name drops Toronto, but she's very active in conservation efforts in the Golden Horseshoe area where she lives. So I definitely wanted to include her. Uh, Next, we have the Tragically Hip. They're very famous. They're very well known. Somehow I've like avoided listening to them my whole life. Like maybe I've heard them on the radio, but I didn't know that. But I recently heard their song Bobcaygeon for the first time. Bobcaygeon is a place in Ontario and it mentions the riots in Christie Pitts, which is a little bit of Toronto history. So that song in particular feels very relevant. And Lorena McKennitt, I actually don't know where she's from. She could be from Ontario. She could totally be from somewhere else. But she has such a beautiful voice. If you look at the photography on her albums, it's very like mystical and soft. And to me, that's what her music sounds like. She has this very sweet soprano voice, and it's very like wafting and ancient and timeless without being new agey. Very heavily influenced by Scottish and Irish folk music. In fact, that's kind of more what I think of her as, but in fact, she is Canadian. So let's go out west. Neil Young, gotta mention him. I really like Harvest Moon by him. Four Strong Winds, Comes a Time. Four Strong Winds, I think, is particularly Canadian, although it was written by an American duo, Ian and Sylvia. But I still think it's a very Canadian story about a guy who's working out in the middle of nowhere and trying to write to his girl to come see him and like trying to work out like if I go at this time then I can send you money, but then by this time it will be winter and it'll be cold, and like it's just really sad, but a really good sounding kind of rocky folky sound. And also in the prairies is William Kurelic. So he's a painter. I believe he painted all sorts of subjects. But what I'm most familiar with him is painting like boyhood in Saskatchewan in the time that he was growing up. I really have a sweet spot for people who paint or talk about the way the world was when they were growing up, because the world changes so fast, and I think it's really nice to memorialize the way the world was. And I actually at one time had a book which was like a bunch of his paintings printed and made into a children's book, and it has all these sweet paintings of boys like swimming in the pond and doing things that kids do. Um, so yeah, I think it's a really nice representation of Saskatchewan. And then going east to the Maritimes, I have a big soft spot for Maritimes music because it's very heavily influenced by Celtic genres, which I really like. So there's a land called Labrador by Harry Martin, and it's just a love song to Labrador, which I love that genre of song. It also touches on like the indigenous history of Labrador. He has a couple other good songs as well. Um, I don't know if she wrote it, but Rita McNeil's version of She's Called Nova Scotia is beautiful. Again, just another love song to the land. There's Farewell to Nova Scotia, which I actually discovered through the High Kings, an Irish group. And it's about a guy probably leaving for World War II saying goodbye to Nova Scotia. It's one of those songs that has like a great beat and it sounds so jolly, and then you're like, oh, it's actually really sad. Oh, and the East Pointers. I discovered them quite recently, but they have a song called 2 Weeks On, 2 Weeks Off, which is kind of similar to Four Strong Winds. The lyrics start with a guy saying, Monday morning, -18, another WestJet flight, YYZ to Calgary. YYZ is the airport in Charlottetown. So, you know, again, the story of people having to go out west to find jobs and the impact that it has on your family. It just feels like a very Canadian story. I don't think it's so bad now, but certainly when I was a kid, it was very common for people in the Maritimes to have to go out west to find work. And even myself living in Ontario, I have family members who have gone up to the territories or gone north. And like it has a big impact when you have to be away from your family for so long just to make a wage. So yeah, they make it into a really nice sounding song with some great fiddle sounds in the background. And they have a couple other songs like Save Your Lonely, which like this is not a band that has like studio instrument sounds, you know, where like they play the keyboard and it makes instrument sounds. Like this is a band of musicians. They are playing away, and they have like vocal breaks where they're just playing the instruments, which I really really like. So yeah, that's more or less the artist that I wanted to share today. And again, I'd love to hear if you're Canadian, who your favorite Canadian artists are, and if you're not, share who you feel represents where you're from, because I don't make videos because I love making videos. I'm making videos because I want to connect with other people over what we enjoy talking about. So please share if you have something to share, and I will catch you another time. Take care.